green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go.
And a good vacay Monday here on Birds 365. You got Mac and Mac, not vacay for us, vacay for the Philadelphia Eagles, seeing as everybody's taking some downtime. Well, not yesterday. A bunch of them got out and played a little softball up in Allentown that we'll talk about in a second. But for the next 6 weeks, maybe 7, who the hell knows, knowing the Eagles, they may just show up for the first preseason game without actually practicing or working out or whatever. So we don't know when we're going to get on-field activity other than the softball field with the Eagles. But Johnny and I will be talking Birds for you every single day, Monday through Friday, right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. While you're at it, feel free to hit the like button early. Like, share, and subscribe to us here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. All right, Johnny Mac, yesterday, did you stay home and off the roads? Because the Delaware Valley for the next 7 months is going to be a difficult place to get around.
Yeah, especially if you're going north. Yeah, that's difficult. I was not on the road, so it didn't affect me. I used to work up there. It would have affected me every day. It's going to be a bad situation because I know the traffic up there, the routes going through Northeast Philadelphia, the back roads now are going to be all it's going to be a disaster. If you want to make some money, buy some water. I saw Billy Godfather say that yesterday and sit out there because people are going to be stuck in traffic. So stand at the lights and
oh, by the way,
it's a good idea.
I told you on Friday after we wrapped up Birds 365, I was heading to Parks for a Belmont Stakes seminar. Made money Friday afternoon, lost money on Saturday afternoon, but that's all right. I love playing. And I take the Tacony Palmyra Bridge over to get on 95 right at Cotman Avenue, right where it all went down like 40 hours after I went by there. And there's a guy you turn off the bridge, and there's a guy every single day there. It doesn't matter. Anytime at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's the guy there with the water and the soft pretzels, which aren't really soft anymore by the time you get there. But yeah, he's going to have
that seasoning of exhaust fume, which makes him that much better.
Yeah. Oh, it's tremendous. But tough break for the city. And again, I was there less than 2 days ahead of time. Luckily, no injuries, but this is going to be months. And it's actually a good thing as tied to Birds 365. It is the Eagles offseason because a lot of people travel down 95 to get the Eagles games and the preseason. The main push is the regular season. We do have months before the Eagles are going to actually get down there and play a game. So if you has said this has got to happen and it's going to be down for months, when would you pick? Probably this time of year. Going to make it a difficult ride for some people to get down the shore coming from northern Philadelphia and north of the city. But for everybody else, it probably came at a decent time. I'm trying to find a silver lining in this cloud, Johnny Mac, and it ain't easy.
You got a bunch of Phillies fans. They're not going to be able, it's going to be different. I saw, the detours basically going into Jersey if you're going north. So you got to go 130, 295, Benny. So for us, it's a little bit easier if we have to go up to, New York or Foxborough, and it's still messed up. You just go on the New Jersey Turnpike. But yeah, for people on the other side of the Delaware River, it's definitely a nightmare. So
but don't kid yourself. It's going to affect those of us on the Jersey side because people are going to do just that. They're going to come down.
Yeah.
You're going to see more traffic on 295, which gets traffic on it all the time anyway. That much more because people are going to have to get around the shutdown on 95, and we'll use New Jersey to do so. So, yeah. Be careful out there. Go slow. Add extra time to wherever your commute is. Or you know what? Better yet, screw it. Stay home. Watch Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.
And like, share, and subscribe because you like and want to share us.
Yes, and you like the fact that you don't have to deal with the traffic and just stay here and talk Eagles football with us. All right. Yes, they had the DeVonta Smith charity softball game up in Allentown yesterday. Somehow people were able to get around the 95 mess and get up there 10,000 strong to sell the joint out. And you got to love Eagles fans. They do come out. They support. They did it for Carson Wentz. They're doing it for DeVonta Smith now. Chance to just see their favorite Eagles, whether it's in pads or not, helmets or not, just out there having fun on a softball field. They do come out in droves. And I guess Dallas Goddard won. Our pal Chris Franklin reporting details. Dallas Goddard wins the home run challenge, which seemed to be as important as the softball game itself, much like the Major League Baseball All-Star game. You have more attention for the home run contest than you do in the game itself. It's a good venture. It's a chance for Eagle fans to get out and see their favorite players, and everybody has a good time. Right, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, it's great. Obviously, Carson's game was here a little bit easier. DeVonta's game, as you mentioned, up in Allentown. But yeah, anytime you get to get a little bit closer, Eagles fans, to their heroes, so to speak. And I'm a little surprised. Now, I wasn't there, so I did see Josh Tolentino was there from the Inquirer. I saw Chris was there. Trying to see who played in the game and all that kind of stuff. I didn't see, I'm always surprised. I don't know if AJ was there. I didn't see him because he's a heck of a baseball player. Was drafted, I believe, by the Padres. Jake Elliott, I always talk about, he won the home run derby once. I was convinced they kept Richard Rodgers around as long as they could because he was such a great softball player. He's such a ringer. He was a great baseball player in college as well. So I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that Dallas won the home run derby. But hey, man, if you got it going, Dave Kingman it out of there.
More power to him. Now, here's a quasi-serious question, John. It's for a charity. It's for a good cause. They raised some good money yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know if it is for a charity.
You don't think it's charity related?
I think it's a celebrity softball game.
Okay.
Celebrity softball game.
So somebody's putting money in their pocket from 10,000 tickets sold?
Yeah.
More power to them. Yeah, shame on me. I just assumed it was a charity game because Carson.
Most people do. We were talking about that, by the way, and I'm not 100% sure. I probably shouldn't say that, but we were talking about it.
I shouldn't say that it was a charity one because I don't know that it is.
Carson's was charity.
Right.
This, from what I know, this is the celebrity softball game, so there's no advertised charity. But,
okay, so
people are having fun.
Somebody may or may not have benefited. Here's the serious question: do the Eagles frown on this?
Good question. I don't think so.
We are talking about the organization that believes less is more, Johnny Mac.
Well, anytime. I mean, look, right, you can get hurt walking outside. I mean, but these are young people in tremendous shape. I don't think they're going to get hurt playing softball. Young
people in tremendous shape last week when they did next to nothing at their gatherings.
Well, they I hear what you're saying. You got to live your life. You can't, and they don't have any power over it. So Nick Sirianni is not the only coach. Every coach in the world I've ever heard is control what you can control. You can control that. You have the right to control it. You can't control this. So, I mean, I guess you can worry about it. You can't.
You're right. They can't control it, but they could certainly drop hints. If there's a player who's desperate, like they're not going to tell Brandon Graham what to do. BG's BG, and he's going to be there and he's going to do whatever the hell he wants. And what are you going to do? Cut him? I don't think so. But if there's a player that doesn't have any kind of guaranteed roster spot, they could tell him, what are you planning on doing at that? Be careful with that physical activity. No, Devontae's your friend.
I can't. I mean, if you're, obviously DeMonte's a star. Dallas is a star. We talked about Dallas winning the home run derby. You mentioned Brandon Graham. I mean, you can't sell. And by the way, not to be harsh, but I'll be harsh. If the 53rd guy on the roster, I mean, if he gets hurt playing softball, I mean, all right, you go to the next 53rd guy on the roster. The guys you're worrying about.
Well, I'm not worried about the Eagles. The Eagles got 90 guys. I'm worried about that poor schnook who is the 53rd guy on the roster.
Well, then he's not going to make the team.
Ends up being out because he can't play in a softball game with DeVonta Smith.
Well, he's got to make his own decision. And I think most people. It's been a long time, I'm not in my early 20s. You're not in your early 20s, but I know if you would have told me, hey, don't go play softball in my early 20s, you might get hurt. I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Shut up. I would have went out and played. So, I mean, they're the same way. And nobody's getting hurt playing softball. Nobody got hurt playing softball. So everything's copacetic. But yeah, you can't do that. I mean, guys, look, you worry. That's what you do. You have these huge investments in players, and I always say this lull in the offseason. You don't want the phone call, but you're mainly thinking about guys getting in trouble, doing something stupid, going out, drinking, whatever. You're mainly worried about that kind of stuff. But you can't control it. I mean, you don't have the right. We mentioned it with Jalen Carter. You don't have the right to hire a private detective and say, don't do this, don't do that. Last time I looked, we're still in the United States. You're allowed to do what you want. One of the big blowbacks with Chip Kelly back in the day was all this nonsense about putting, sleep monitors on the players, checking their urine for, how yellow was it versus, how hydrated were you? Can't do that crap. Can't. So, and remember, the NFLPA is fighting for the players, getting off on a tangent, but I did see this morning J. Mark Gibbs talking about NFL practices. Don't try to kill us, over a Pro Football Talk. Nick Saban did.
He basically laughed at the NFL practices.
Well, all the Georgia guys do too. I was bringing all the Georgia guys are the same way. They're like, this ain't hard. We practiced in Georgia. There's no union at the college level. Maybe there will be sooner rather than later because of all the NIL stuff, but there isn't up to this date. Nobody's fighting for the players. Here you got a union, and they fight for the players, and that's why you can't do all this stuff. So, it's different. But yeah, I don't think Nick Sirianni's losing any sleep because anybody played in softball.
I'm just saying one story you won't be reading this offseason is Eagles fined for abuse of practice time. That's not happening. They come out on the short end rather than the long end of pushing the envelope as to how much you can actually get in as far as practice time goes. All right, the one other story.
Real quick, because I want to, it is for charity. So thanks to Jamie Keene for St. Luke's Hospital Iron Pigs charity. So it is for charity.
I thought I read that somewhere, but I wasn't sure, so didn't know. The one other story I did want to touch on before we punch up our first guest, who's going to be Tommy Lawler from EaglesBlitz.com. I guess someone at a Carolina Panthers gathering asked Miles Sanders about his limited usage in last year's Super Bowl. And Miles rightfully came out and said, well, what do you think? Last game, final game, you can go ahead and ask them. He basically came out and said, yeah, he wasn't happy about it. Well, he shouldn't have been. He said, I don't want to make any headlines, but yeah, it wouldn't have to be about it if that's the case that you're asking. Just let it be known that you brought it up, not me. No kidding. With the 7 carries that he got, I would have been a little bit perturbed. Now, he didn't do anything with those 7 carries. And I don't think Miles' contribution or lack thereof had a major impact on the outcome of the game. He waited 4 months before saying anything. I thought the more interesting quote was when asked about potential staying with the Eagles, he said, yeah, ask them, which means it sounds like the Eagles didn't make much of an offer to Miles Sanders to begin with anyway. Anything that Miles said over the weekend surprise you, perturb you, tell you anything new that you didn't know before, John?
No. I mean, he's upset. He wanted to stay. And yeah, the Eagles weren't interested at the number he was going to get. And we talked about the valuation of that position and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, Nick Sirianni actually liked Miles a lot. You know, his son was a big Miles fan. He did not play well in the Super Bowl. And remember, the first play, it started on the first play of the game where he fumbled the football out of bounds and hurt his hand. So that was part of it as well. He hurt himself. And I think that was the bigger issue more than anything else. But other than Jalen Hurts, I mean, they weren't effective running the football. And running backs always want the ball and always think the next run is going to, and they should. I mean,
right.
That's part
of it. That attitude.
Yeah, they should think the next run is going to be the one that breaks. But you know, I think also kind of missed and as Miles was banged up down the whole stretch of the season, playing with the knee brace and was playing through some things. So you give him credit for that as well. But he wasn't as effective late as he was earlier because of that reason. I think the knee, and then you compound it with the hand in the Super Bowl. Just one of those things, like Brock Purdy in the NFC Championship game. Not as serious, but he got hurt. So what, you know, you're going in a different direction. It makes sense. But yeah, I mean, he wanted to be here. He's upset. You always see these situations, it ends, and you know, loves the team one day. It's like, well, why, you know, I had 1,269 yards, career year. You don't want me. Why don't you want me? And it works both ways, you know, with all the Gannon stuff and, you know, Big Fangio coming out and, you know, people conflating the dates and getting the dates wrong. And, you know, if Arizona didn't want Jonathan Gannon, he would have been back as defensive coordinator. So I'm not sure what people want, and I'm not sure what Miles wants. It doesn't. It often doesn't compute. But the Eagles aren't going to pay that position. Same thing with T.J. Edwards. T.J. Edwards probably feels the same way. Like, what more can I do? Now, he's probably a little bit happier because he went home to his hometown team and he was a fan growing up and all that kind of stuff. So you don't hear him, but he probably feels the same way. Miles had a great season, but they're not going to pay that position, and they've proven it time and time again. So let's cut off the Dalvin Cook stuff before it even starts. They're certainly not paying him.
Okay, John, be careful. Dalvin, that had some legs when it first started rumorizing that he could become an ex-Viking. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think they're getting involved in Dalvin Cook, but hey,
had some legs. I've been telling you that for months. They signaled it. They put up the bat signal. They told everybody we're cutting them, and they just kept waiting until they finally did it.
Right. The question was, could they actually trade him? And the answer I found out was no, not with the contract, because the Eagles are not the only ones in the National Football League who have devalued running backs. The National Football League at all has devalued running backs, and it would be interesting to see where Cook lands. I'm with you. It's not going to be here in Philadelphia. All right, Johnny Mac, here with you on Birds 365. We add a third voice to the mix. Our buddy Tommy Lawler from EaglesBlitz.com up next on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. We've got Tommy Lawler from EaglesBlitz.com, longtime Eagle beat guy, joining us here on Birds 365. Tommy, be thankful you're down there in Carolina. You don't have to deal with the mess that is I-95 up here in Philadelphia. It's going to be giving us issues for the next several months. But the Eagles got some downtime, so we're just looking for stories to tell. I saw you put one up about Christian Ellis. Everybody jumping on the Christian Ellis bandwagon because he made a couple of plays in workouts. I'm not even going to call them practices. Is this the newest Eagle find? Star undrafted free agent who comes in and makes a major contribution to the Eagle defense.
I don't know if we want to go that far quite yet, but he's trending in the right direction, you know? And that's what you when you see these practices. Obviously, it's organized team activities. They don't call them practices, right? And what you want to see is the guy take advantage of the situations that are there. They can't hit, they can't tackle, they're not blitzing. So show us what you can do in pass coverage. And as we know, the game has changed, and pass coverage is critical for linebackers in today's NFL. So the fact that he picked off a couple of passes, look good in coverage, that's an encouraging sign. And the fact that he played well last year when he got on the field was obviously an impact player for special teams. They got markedly better once he was elevated and made a part of the special teams. He's trending in the right direction, certainly win a roster spot and to push for a role on this team. So he's doing well, but it is funny, you know, there's just not a lot of compelling stories right now for the Eagles, so we're desperate for something to talk about. So all of a sudden, Christian Ellis becomes the guy instead of how many stories can you write about Jalen Hurts or A.J. Brown with nothing new to say?
Yeah, especially the way it is. You're right. I mean, Tommy, I've been covering this league for too long, and I go way back, and I still remember there was a player who became an all CFL player by the name of Kyrese Abear. When I covered
what? Where?
Yes, exactly. When I covered the Minnesota Vikings, he to this day had the best offseason I've ever seen. And the offseason was a longer period back then, but still limited from a context standpoint, a pad standpoint. He would make a big play every day in the spring. And we were like, wow, this guy's, Ronnie Lott basically. And, then the pads came on, but nothing. Down to the second team, down to the third team, eventually cut. And as I said, to his credit, went up north and became a heck of a player in that particular league, but not what you're looking for. For Eagles fans, more recently, I go to Donnell Pumphrey. You probably remember, Tommy. They unveiled this 21 pony formation in the spring with him and Darren Sproles on the field at the same time. It looked unstoppable. Unstoppable. You had these two diminutive running backs, so quick in T-shirts, and then the pads come on. Ain't going to work. Oh, we got to block somebody, and it just quickly evaporates.
Well, the greatest OTA player of all time, do you guys not remember Lorenzo Booker?
Lorenzo Booker, sure.
It was spring of 2007 or 2008. The Eagles had traded for him from the Dolphins, put him out there in the OTAs. Nobody could cover him. He was a scat back. Yeah. So quick, so athletic. Nobody could cover him. We thought, Westbrook is going to lose some touches to this guy. He's going to be a playmaker. Andy's going to use him. He's going to change the offense. And the guy did squat. I don't know if he had 100 total yards as an Eagle in games. Yeah. But in the OTAs, he was electric. Everybody. This wasn't like just, Dave Spadaro writing positive stuff about it. Everybody raved about this guy. Everybody absolutely loved this guy. And so to me, the Lorenzo Booker is the legend of OTAs.
Yeah. And my overriding point is buyer beware on this kind of stuff. But I agree with your point. You can only do what you can do in the offseason. I think it's a very positive development that Christian Ellis showed up in this environment and played as well as he did. So how do you kind of figure it out? I mean, there's a need at that position.
Sure.
He's got an opportunity, but buyer beware.
I think what we have to remind ourselves here is kind of what Jim Schwartz talked about a few years ago when he told his story about Jim Palmer in the spring training.
A bunch of stories about
and he talked about Jim Palmer just had an awful spring training, got lit up, and turned out that Jim Palmer, somebody asked Jim, are you concerned? He goes, no, because all I've thrown this entire summer this entire spring is curveballs. So hitters know what's coming, but I'm working on my curveball, and I don't care what the results are now. I'm getting ready for April, May, and June. And so he wasn't worried about results. He was focusing on technique. And so sometimes we can watch where one player might be trying to focus on a little part of his technique and another player is going all out to win every play. One guy's trying to learn, one guy's trying to win. And so sometimes we focus on the guy who wins because that guy's going all out, full speed. He's not interested in learning and developing his game. The other player's trying to get ready for the season. And so we kind of have two different goals there. One guy's trying to adjust and one guy's trying to play as if this is a regular season game. And so you can get some false positives from the guy who's going all out, doing whatever it takes to succeed on the plate, and the other guy's trying to work on his technique.
Thank you both for making my point for me and throwing out guys who have really lit things up in OTAs. And then the season started and you forgot their name pretty damn quickly. I'm not knocking or mocking Christian Ellis, and I'm glad he had a couple of nice activity sessions with them. Yeah, I'm predicting he's not as some people get overly excited and overly crazed about what a guy does. 7-7 in shorts. I'll wait to judge Christian Ellis until we get to actual joint practices, which are the key off-season activities for the Eagles.
That's different than you drinking a 7-7 while wearing shorts. We got to be sure there's different things.
Yeah,
we got a night for that coming up. The longest day of the year. That's a Jody McDonald tradition. Not 7-7s. You got to drink gin. I was taught by a friend of mine, ex-NFL player, as a matter of fact. Didn't ever play in the regular season, but was in the Packers camp one year. A guy by the name of Adrian Carson that I work with at ESPN said everybody drinks gin on the longest day of the year, which is June 21st, which is coming up in about 10 days from now. So yeah, thank you
that's
for
the first time I
reminding me.
heard that, but I'll take his advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to drink June on the longest day of the year. Adrian Carson told me that, and he threatened me that if I didn't drink gin with him, he would. And he was an offensive lineman too, so I was going to drink gin with my buddy.
Oh yeah, right.
On that day. Yeah. So Christian Ellis looked good. Did we find out anything else from the Eagles OTAs this offseason, Tommy? They did less than any other team in the National Football League. I'm poo-pooing what Christian Ellis did, but yet I'm asking you, did we learn anything else? Or did we just throw it all out? Doesn't matter. Wait till camp opens up. Everything else that happens before that is irrelevant.
Oh, everything matters. Everything they did absolutely matters. The difference here is that the coaches know what they're looking for. The three of us and everybody else who watches them or studies them, we don't know exactly what the coaches are looking for because the coaches are the ones in the classrooms talking to them and saying, here's what I want to see today. We just go out and watch football or see clips of football, and we judge it based on what we know of football. And listen, I've followed the Eagles for a long time. I've watched preseason football for a long time. I followed the OTs. I still don't understand spring football very well because it's just like we talked about. One guy's going all out and the other guy's working on a technique. How do you know who's doing what? And that makes it so complicated. But we didn't learn anything definitive. The roles were pretty clearly defined on this team. I thought it was encouraging that Terrell Edmonds seemed to play well from what I've heard. And the Eagles, obviously, they have a bunch of bodies at safety. We're kind of looking for some guys to step up and kind of cement their spots. And so it looks like he and Reed Blankenship will be the starters there for now. Sidney Brown is the rookie who's we'll see how he does. This was his first, NFL activities. And I think he'll really come alive when they're allowed to hit in training camp because Sidney's such a physical player. I think that'll bring out a side of him. But, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on, that we learned a lot. Jalen Hurts, still a talented quarterback. A.J. Brown, still a talented receiver, and so on and so forth. There wasn't much to take from it, but the coaches certainly got something.
Yeah, I looked at a couple things, Tommy, and I thought they were interesting is how I would describe it. And I brought this up with Jody last week, and I want to run it by you because I think it's going to be relevant in the summer when they get to camp. As we all know, they have these veteran maintenance days for certain players. Jason Kelce, obviously a part of that list, and deservedly so. The second OTA open to us reporters, Jason didn't participate in. And I was interested from the standpoint of, all right, are you going to move Cam Jurgens back to center with the first team and have Tyler Steen or Jack Driscoll take the right guard reps? Or does Cam Jurgens need those right guard reps? So I thought it was interesting from that standpoint. The answer is, they moved Cam back to center. Now, they only do individual work. It's 7-on-7s. They don't do any teamwork. But they moved him back to center, and Tyler Steen was first team at right guard. I thought it was interesting, but I don't know why. Does that mean they're so confident in Cam Jurgens, they're okay with toggling him back and forth? Or does it mean this is a real competition and we want to get Tyler Steen first team reps like back when it was Mailata versus Andre Dillard? Maybe you can do it during those maintenance days instead of just going back and forth. If you had to guess, which camp would you be in? They're so confident in Cam Jurgens, or it's a real competition?
I think it's a little bit of both, with a third thing thrown in is the Eagles really value versatility up front. And so they need it. Listen, Jason Kelce's been a workhorse. The last time he had a serious injury was 2012, right? But we knock on wood, right? If he goes out, they need Cam Jurgens to be ready to play center. Not just that he's played it in the past and he can learn it again. They need him to be ready to play it. So you want him to get some reps at center. And then you obviously want to give Tyler Steen a shot with the first teamers, because you want to see what he looks like with the ones, even if it's just lining up. How quick does he come off the ball? What does he look like? And you want to get those looks. And I think that they wouldn't do this if they thought that Cam Jurgens was desperate for reps at right guard. So they obviously, like I say, to me, it's a little bit of both, that they're confident enough in him, they can move him back and forth, but they definitely want him ready at center and guard. And they want the best 5 guys on the field, but then they want backups ready at those spots too. Because, listen, if you follow the Eagles, you go back to 2020, offensive line injuries just ruined that season. So you want guys ready to play multiple positions.
I think the Eagles tipped their hand when they did what they did with Dickerson a couple of years ago. Here's a guy who was a second-round pick, not a first. Probably would have been a first if not for injury, but he was a second-round pick, and Steen's a third-round pick. They threw him into the deep end of the pool and said, we're starting you from day one at a new position, and I don't think they'd be afraid to do it with Steen. To answer Johnny Mac's question, I think it's going to be a competition. It made the best man win, and I would say starting right guard is a more important decision than backup center to Jason Kelce, because as Tommy correctly points out, Jason never gets hurt. So as soon as I say that, he's now going to miss 8 games with a high ankle sprain. But I think it's going to be a fun competition at the right guard spot. Even losing out with their starter at the right guard position, Eagles still got the best offensive line in the NFL, Tommy?
I think so, because they have the best right tackle, the best center, and one of the best left guards. Those are 3 positions where they're near the top of the league. And then obviously Jordan Mailata is an above average left tackle. So it's not just that they have 5 starters, 5 talented players. They have guys that are dominant in their positions. And that's so rare in today's NFL. Normally, like people would talk about, the Niners have a good offensive line. And you looked at it and, they had a couple of guys that were above average players, and everybody else was just an experienced player, a veteran player as part of their group. Most teams only have 1 or 2 guys to build around, and they don't have, like, Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson both are legitimate Hall of Fame candidates, right? That's a rarity in the NFL to have guys like that playing together for that long. So to me, this is still the best offensive line in football.
It's tough to say. Tough to say it isn't, even losing Isaac Seumalo, and that tells you how good they were, because Isaac's a very good player. The 33rd team, our buddies over there, P. Damo and Mike Tannenbaum, Joe Banner, they did a little thing. They put the top 20 remaining free agents. I had a little fun with fans. I put yes 20 times. And some took it seriously, by the way, which is kind of sad. Also, I did not ask the question about DeAndre Hopkins because it's silly, and I don't ask silly questions at press conference. That's for fans, not you guys. Anyway, there are a couple guys on this top 20 list, and basically I'll run through it real quick. DeAndre Hopkins 1, Dalvin Cook 2, Ben Jones 3, Marcus Peters 4, Dalton Risner 5, Yannick Ngakoue 6, John Johnson 7, Taylor Lewan, Adrian Amos, Eli Apple, Melvin Ingram, Jadeveon Clowney, Ezekiel Elliott, Casey Hayward, Kyle Van Noy, Justin Houston, Matt Ioannidis, George Bant, Rashaan Evans, Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of big names there. A lot of big name trap. Everybody knows these particular names. I ran through it pretty quickly. Any interest, anybody on that list, to me, it would have to be safeties. The safeties, John Johnson, Adrian Amos. Anything pique your interest?
Not really. I agree with you, John Johnson. Adrian Amos really wouldn't. I don't know that he's a great fit for this system, and I don't know that he'd be a major upgrade on the guys they have. John Johnson has played in a similar version of this system and has played at a high level, so he would be interesting for sure. Linebacker is the other spot where obviously the Eagles could look to potentially upgrade. I don't know. Rashaan Evans might have been the only off-ball linebacker you mentioned.
Yes.
The rest of the positions are places where the Eagles have players, and really we need to see the guys that are in these positions, because as we've talked about, when you have Jalen Hurts making mega money, AJ Brown makes mega money, Hassan Reddick's not exactly cheap. And all on down the line, Lane Johnson makes a boatload of money. You've got to have cheap solutions, and especially you want young, cheap solutions so they'll be there for 2, 3, 4 years. You start signing 1-year guys every year, and it just becomes a turnstile. So that's where there's real value in seeing, can Reed Blankenship develop? Can Christian Ellis develop? And guys of that nature. And you want those guys, if you can get 2 or 3 years of play from them at a minimum level or a low level, that makes things that much easier for you to go make free agent moves and have a better cap situation.
In a word, John, the answer to your question is no. You put down 20 yeses on Twitter. I would have put down 20 no's.
Wow, I really put that. My yes was a no, Jody. I hope you know me. Well enough by now.
It did take me a second. I sat there and looked at it. I said, let me reread this tweet again. And then I went through and I said, okay, I got you. But for a minute, I thought, oh boy, he's starting to lose it. And then I thought, no, I got you.
Had you put one maybe in there, you would have tipped your hand at, oh, okay, this is him being cynical. Yeah, I know to every single guy on that roster, and it doesn't mean that the Eagles roster is set, but there's just no positional need for any of those players that are on that list. So, how he can keep mining the mines to see if something's there, but there isn't in the free agency as far as I'm concerned. But we did get some talk about it, and John just said somebody questioned him asking a question about DeAndre Hopkins. We know that chances are DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to land here. Where do you think DeAndre is going to land? If he's not coming here at Philadelphia, which we all agree is highly unlikely, where do you think he's going to land, Tommy?
If I had to guess, I'd go Patriots. They're talking to him. If he might, I think he might have been in Nashville yesterday.
Yeah, he's in Nashville right now meeting with the Titans. So maybe they don't let him out of the building, so to speak.
They could certainly use him, right? And the Patriots need him. And we know Bill Belichick's a big fan of his, and that makes a huge difference. And obviously, the Patriots are trying to figure out if Mac Jones can play or not. And they found out he couldn't play with Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator. Well, they fixed that. They hired Bill O'Brien to run the offense. And he just needs better weapons. They've done a little bit of work this offseason to improve the receiving core. They still don't have anybody that scares defenses. And Hopkins would give them a guy that defenses would have to pay attention to, and that would open up that offense a little bit and help them. Listen, if Mac Jones isn't the answer, that's fine. But they need to figure that out so they can proceed accordingly and decide if they need to go find another quarterback. Right now, they just don't know what they've got in Mac Jones. Is he just a young guy that could develop, or is he a guy that has peaked already and heading into year 3?
You can tell it's the off season with these questions, Tommy. So I'm going to go to the ESPN Football Power Index. Now, Jody and I had a lot of fun with the ESPN FPI last year. No matter what the Eagles do, they couldn't get ahead of Dallas. They couldn't get ahead of, no matter what they did, even when they beat Dallas, they couldn't get ahead of Dallas. So we ripped it quite a bit, and I think deservedly so. Yeah. But now they've come out with Super Bowl 58 chances. And number one on that list,
Dallas Cowboys,
0.9%. Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, wow.
Now can we rip the ESPN Football Power Index? The Cowboys are way down at number 6, by the way.
No.
At 6.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
There's
Jody's Jets are number 8 at 3.9%. Number 2 is the reigning champions, the Chiefs. Number 3 is the 49ers. 4 is the Bills. 5 is the Bengals. Now, I think the reason the Eagles are on top, you look, the AFC's tougher, doesn't, so you're either going to go 49ers, Eagles. So it makes sense to me. Now it's great. Did we go down that route or say, all right, let's pump the brakes?
Oh, listen, these things, who knows what goes into all these formulas. The Eagles, I think you give them the advantage coming out of the NFC just because they have the best roster and a veteran quarterback. And the Niners have a good roster, but their quarterback situation is kind of up in the air.
Be careful. Right, Jody's going to rip you. Jody's going to rip you.
Well, keep going. If you give Brock Purdy his just due and just say it's questionable because we don't know if Purdy's going to be there, then I'm not going to rip you. If
Yeah,
you're
no,
going to tell me Brock
he's
Purdy's
not
still,
healthy. He's not healthy.
Right. It's all about his health, not the quality of play he had last year. He didn't go 2-0. He didn't go 6-0. He went 8-0 and put up good stats in every single game that he played. And I don't care now that he's Mr. Irrelevant. People cling to this, where you're drafted years down the road. Yeah, but he was 7th round draft. Who cares when you've got time logged in the NFL? I much would rather judge someone by what they've actually done on the NFL field than where they were drafted. And I think too many people are holding Brock Purdy's draft status against him after the half a season he had last year.
Yeah, well, listen, he got so hot and played so well that you just feel like it seemed more like an anomaly than something that's going to be sustainable. We'll see, right? Defenses will adjust to them, coaches will adjust to him, and we'll see, because we've all seen players get hot for a few games, sustaining it over a full season.
Yeah, 8's not a few, Tommy.
That's still not a full season, and we've
not,
seen guys.
You said a few.
Okay,
he played 8. He was 8-0 before he hurt his elbow in the Eagles game.
Go back.
Few for me means 2 or 3. 8 means a half a season.
Go back to 2007. Derek Anderson had a Pro Bowl year for the Cleveland Browns, the only good year he ever had in the NFL, and he was in the NFL for years. You see guys every now and then, things just click for them. And listen, if he turns out to be a great player, so be it. I'll be the first one to say it. But I'm just saying, until it's proven over a couple of years, there's always going to be a little hesitation. Heck, I mean,
can I ask you a question about that, Tommy? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Jalen Hurts has only had one superior year. Are we questioning him?
No, it's fair too. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I like the fact that you have your standard. Get me 2 or 3 years under your belt, then I'll evaluate you as a superstar. But if it's short that, you're going to go, all right, yeah, he's still got a lot to prove.
Listen, if you're scouting football players, scouting in its own way should be like science. You go based on evidence. Okay. The evidence would tell you Brock Purdy just had a terrific rookie season and played at a very high level. Jalen Hurts could have easily been the MVP of the NFL last year. Both guys had great years. So let's see what they do in 2023. And if they both play at a high level, it's when you get to like Tom Brady played well for, we'll go back to the early days.
Decades.
8 years. And you said, okay, that's just a fact. He's that level of player. But for a year, half a year, year and a half, you're just sitting there trying to see. Because we've seen Dante Culpepper got off to a terrific start with his NFL career. And an injury set in and he faded away. So I've seen so many guys that looked like they were going to be special players, this, that, the other, and they just couldn't sustain it. Sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it is injuries. Sometimes it's bad coaching, bad luck. Who knows? Heck, I mean, you go back to 2012, Robert Griffin, RG3. He looked like he was going to change
he had a great season.
Football, right?
Yeah.
Phenomenal season. And through the Shanahans forcing him back onto the field hurt, and then through Dan Snyder's ownership, his situation just deteriorated very quickly, and Washington went from having a sport-altering quarterback to a guy that was gone in a couple of years and sucking in Cleveland. And so that's why
I'm glad you brought that one up. That's one of the greatest what-ifs in the NFL. I mean, he was phenomenal as a rookie. For people that forget, basically carried off on his shield in the playoffs. He had Washington in the playoffs. And he was changing the game, and he just wasn't the same physically. I remember he not only tore his ACL, he tore everything. He tore the LCL, the PCL. So it was a catastrophic knee injury. And I remember when Carson tore his ACL, he also tore his LCL. And I was concerned because of what happened to RG3. I was like, that's a serious injury. That's more serious than just a typical ACL injury. And Carson was able to make it back and play at certainly an acceptable level, but he was never the same player. No,
RG3, one of the situations with him is that he and Dan Snyder spent the offseason kind of palling around, so he's going through rehab, and he and Dan Snyder were going to movie premieres and doing oddball things. And then RG3 got with his marketing team and did some kind of promotional thing with Subway to sell T-shirts that had to do with him making a comeback. So that's why I say the circumstances. He didn't have a coach who said, focus on getting better. He's worried about marketing himself. He and the owner are going to movie premieres and doing Hollywood stuff. And the focus wasn't on getting better and playing football. And so he was a very distracted young man. And, when you're coming off an injury, especially like you say, a horrible injury like he had, you got to have laser focus. He did not have laser focus. And I don't think he got physically right for a while. And then by the time he did, Washington was such a mess that he was gone from there. And like I say, went to Cleveland. And the Eagles played him against him in Cleveland once. Might have been Carson's debut in 2016. I can't remember. And he was just not a good player. It was over for him by then.
Yeah. It is certainly speculation season. And John, if you still have that ESPN power ranking available, I want to ask you about an individual team because that's what we're doing at this time of year, nitpicking what other people are saying about other things. At home, I say Christian Ellis grabbed a couple of passes in 7-on-7 drills, and now he's starting linebacker for the Eagles. Yeah, I got to wait and see that. Where did ESPN have the Detroit Lions? Because I'm getting a lot of buzz that the Lions are going to be a team. And don't be surprised if they're the third best team in the NFC behind the Eagles and the 49ers. Where did ESPN have?
Number 7. So if you go with the ESPN Football Power Index, and this makes me rethink my own position because they have the exact same top 4 I do in the exact same position. Eagles, 49ers, Cowboys, Lions, which would be where I would have the top 4. So I got to rethink
that. Tommy, I think the Lions are getting a little off-season overrated. They had a nice season above 500 last year. And I give them a lot of props for winning that last game of the season. They had been eliminated. They go into the last week, can make the playoffs. Seattle wins earlier. Now they know they can't make the playoffs, and they stick it to Green Bay just the same, who still had the chance to make the playoffs. So I give them their props for that final win, but they were 9-8 in a lesser NFC. I think people are going a little overboard on the Lions. How about you?
A little bit, yeah, I agree. I think they're the kind of the flavor of the month. I feel like they finished the season 6-2 or something like that. I don't have the numbers memorized for them.
They were very good down the stretch. Yeah,
they obviously lost the Eagles 38-35. They could have won that game. There was a couple of other games they lost that were close. They could have won them. So they went 9-8, but they might have gone 12-5.
By the way, I know I've told Jody this. I don't know if I told you this, Tommy. Dallas Goedert told me his exact quote, I don't care what anybody says. The Lions are the best team we played this season. And this was this was late in the season. So it wasn't after the Super Bowl, but it was late in the season and it was unprompted. Like it wasn't, taught for it was unprompted. So I put a little bit more meaning behind it. Like they're a good team.
One of the things that was so frustrating in that game is the Eagles kept building the lead, 14 points, 17 points. Yeah. And you keep thinking, okay, you've knocked them down on the mat. They're going to stay down. And the Lions, being the jerks they are, kept getting up and scoring a touchdown. And they wouldn't quit. And it was, listen, if you're a Monty Python fan, it's like the Black Knight. Come back, it's just a flesh wound. And the Eagles kept scoring, and they kept scoring. And by the end, it cut it 38-35. And I feel like it was a late quarterback sneak that sealed the game. We didn't realize what
it was.
That would become, right?
Jalen, the early start. I don't think it was a tush push, though. I think
no.
They let him do it on his own? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And
which is why I advocate. Hey, they should have banned the tush push. It would have helped the Eagles because Jalen's getting it anyway. Other quarterbacks
need help.
May not get it.
Yeah. All right, so let me put you both to the number test. Detroit Lions, the over/under 10.5. This team going to win 11 games this year? Go 11-6?
I think so, and I'll let Tommy. I say yes because, look, Minnesota's, I don't want to say they're tanking, but they're they're going in a different direction. Green Bay's no Aaron Rodgers going to Jordan Love. They're going to struggle. Chicago's not ready. Somebody's got to win games in that division. I think it's going to be Detroit, and I think it gets them to 11. That's why I would say.
Tommy, under over 10.5.
You know, just listen, for the sake of entertainment, I'll go under. And again, listen, John doesn't know anything. He matches the FBI. He takes all his thoughts from the FBI. You can't trust that guy. No, listen, I think they're going to be a good team, and I think they're going to win double-digit games. I would have them probably at 10. But I do think that nobody's going to be caught off guard by Detroit. And some teams are going to, whereas Detroit, you know, you have to go back quite a few years for people to circle that game and say, we want to play the Lions. They're going to get some of that this year. And responding to winning and playing with a bullseye on your back, that's tough. Not every team handles that well. So we'll see if Detroit does. They probably will, but I am curious to see how they do.
The reason why I'm taking the under is too many Lions players will actually go on their phone and bet the over while at the facilities and be suspended because Detroit's had more players suspended than anyone else in the National Football League, including their star second-year wide receiver who's not going to play the first 6 games.
That's right.
I'm going under and bet on it because the Lions will.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Dan Campbell as a head coach either, but somebody's got to win some games in that division. The other 3 teams,
John, I know it's going to be painful for you, but the Bears are going to be much improved.
Campbell's the kind of guy who can motivate players, get them to play tough, play hard, really battle. But history is filled with guys like that who got the team above 500 but couldn't get them to the next level.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, you have to have X's and O's answers, and you have to have long-term vision, and those are the kind of things I don't know if he does. The guy's done a terrific job, and he's got that franchise turned around, but I just don't know if he's going to be the guy to get him to go to the next level.
And mark my words, the Lions will not be as good running the football. Jahmyr Gibbs going through soft practices as a first-round draft pick. They're going to miss both Williams and Swift, the 2 running backs they moved away from. And, oh, by the way, very good running back coach, no longer there, now in Carolina, down your neck of the woods, joining the Panthers staff. Sans Deuce, I don't think the Lions will run the ball as well this upcoming year. Tommy, great stuff. We always appreciate it when you come on. Thanks for jumping in to help us get through the downtime that is the Eagles offseason. We will certainly be doing so again in a couple weeks. Thanks for jumping in today.
I've got to go get some gin to be ready for the long day.
There we go. And I warned you about Brock Purdy. I warned you, Tommy. I warned you.
You did. I didn't listen. I will listen next time, John. I promise.
You got 9 days before the longest day of the year. So I think you get out to the liquor store and get yourself some good gin between now and the 21st.
There right now.
Tommy, good stuff. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys.
Tommy Lawler, EaglesBlitz.com. Check out his website. Tommy puts up Eagles commentary and posts all the time. He's got a pretty damn good grasp of this football team. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. We got more Birds 365, hour number 2 coming your way.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got your Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald, hanging with you on Birds 365. We are in the midst of the downtime that is the Eagles off season. No OTAs, no practices. We wait for camp to arrive. And John, the first official day of camp is going to be what?
It's not official yet, so I can't tell you.
Exactly.
Just keep an eye on July 25th. Probably.
Is that a Monday or a Sunday?
Well, that's a good question. I'd have to look at my calendar.
Now, all these years blend one into another, but if memory serves, most often it seems to me that they get the rookies reporting on Sunday night. Come in, and you get the video down there of everyone coming in their fancy cars and reporting it. It's not the same as it used to be because nobody stays there. It used to be checking into a camp somewhere on a college campus. You'd have to check into the dorm. Not exactly the same. But I, for some reason, remember it as they usually make Sunday the rookie day. And then the day after Monday.
It's a Tuesday. That makes sense. I believe, and this is all just speculation. 25th will be the reporting day. If history holds true, recent history, not what you're talking about back in the old days when people would go to college campuses, still a few teams, very few do that, but they will the first practice will be Wednesday, and you have this ramp up. You also have this 5-day ramp up period, also collectively bargained. And then I'll have off on Thursday, the 27th, typically, and then get back to work over the weekend. That's looking at the calendar. That's my best guess.
What's the ramp up period include?
You can't have pads. You can only be on the field for a certain amount of time. I'll look it up and give you the exact details. But that's another change in recent years. It's a lot different from the days that you were speaking of.
And whatever the time frame, the maximum amount of time allowed is, you cut it by at least a third, if not a half, as to what the Eagles are going to do, because they never push that envelope. They never knock up against the maximum number of minutes you're allowed to work out.
I wouldn't say that far. I wouldn't go half, but I mean, on days, let's see, the letter. I got the letter up when they announced it.
Let me ask you a question, John. For last week OTAs, what was the maximum amount of time allowed on any given day?
The maximum?
Yeah, as per
on
the
OTAs.
You know, off the top of your head.
I don't know. But here's
I'd speculate there was probably at least 1 2-hour day in there, right?
Nah,
they could have spent
2 hours.
You think it's under 2 hours?
2 hours is long for OTAs, but I don't know because day two is 90 minutes of training camp. Day 3 is 105 minutes. Day 4 is 2 hours. Day 5 is 2 hours, and that's the maximum for every team. That's how long you could be on the field. No contact. No pads.
Right.
So
those 2 2-hour days, What do you think the Eagles are going to do?
Hour 10.
So in other words, half, which is exactly what I said, which you said, I don't know about that.
Well, I was talking mainly that first day, 90 minutes. I don't know if they'll go 45. They usually go an hour 10. That's what they do.
Did they do under an
10.
hour last week?
45, 50. I'm talking about training camp, though. I'm not talking about OTAs.
But
I'm talking about training camp. Training camp, they take a little bit more seriously. I'm not gonna, and they take it seriously. They do more work in there.
Right, but the first week is no pads, right? It's shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah, that's for everybody. That's not allowed.
Right, of course, the National Football League, I get that, but that to me denotes when the Eagles actually start putting in work is when
it's called the acclimation period.
Really, not ramp up. They have an actual name for it.
Acclimation period.
That's a pretty damn fancy word. I've not heard that one thrown around about the National Football League.
Yeah, you've probably heard me say this before. The NFL's over freaking legislating everything. They got a rule for everything. It's like the most copious legal document, just bogged down everything. It's absurd. It's absurd.
Here's how I'll respond to that. There's a reason for that it's over legislated specifically with all these rules and how much time you can put in everything else. It's greed by the NFL owners that every time there is a collective bargaining agreement and the union wants to try and get at least whatever small little percentage more for their players they can, the NFL owners go, no, what else can we give you? We'll give you something else. We're not going to give you another dime, but we'll give you something else. So, well, let's negotiate amount of time and amount of practice. Okay, yeah, we'll give you that. You need us to go to paper on that? Yeah, you need us to give exact number of minutes. You need us to fine teams when, God forbid, they practice for 5 more minutes than they're supposed to. Oh, yeah, we'll give you all that. But we're not going to give you another cent when it comes to salaries and actually going into our pockets. That's why it's as legislated as it is, John. The owners don't ever want to give the players anything when it comes to increase in salaries.
Well, they don't. I mean, yeah, they want to make as big a profit as they possibly can. There's no doubt about that. You'll never hear me argue that. But I think a lot of it has to do with, it's not the NFL, it's society as a whole. I think a lot of it has to do, and I always say, about pending litigation, future litigation. Bottom line, it works both ways. I mean, the union is negotiating for the players, vice versa. The league is out for itself, and the fans get screwed basically through it all. But look, I see both sides from the health issue, but as we know, whether it's kickoff returns, whether it's Thursday night games, whether it's torn ACLs, we just talked about RG3. One of my pet peeves is when people talk about player safety in the NFL, they're only talking about one thing: concussions. They don't give a rat's ass if you tear your ACL, your LCL, and by rat's ass I mean long term. Like, they're not concerned from a legal indemnity standpoint about a torn ACL. They're concerned about concussions. So all we're talking about when we talk about player safety is concussions. That's it. With those goopy, as Lane Johnson describes, those goopy Guardian caps, you'll see them at the beginning. Now they're, there's no evidence that they help, but we'll see it because you can take a picture of it and say, oh, they're trying to help. They're trying to increase player safety. It's all nonsense. But part of the reason why is because, they will get sued. So, they got to do this dog and pony show.
All right. Let me ask you this question. And Jeff Kerr is going to join us coming up in a little over 10 minutes from now. And I want to just take on it as well. Major sports story during the week broke that didn't immediately affect the National Football League, but I think can at some point in the future. And I would not be surprised if it was relatively soon in the future. The PGA Tour merged with Live Golf, which is the Saudi run and funded golf tour. And a lot of the top flight PGA players left to go play for Live for more money, but less actual work. And there's a split between the PGA Tour players who stayed loyal and stayed on the PGA Tour and those that went to Live. Well, after many a lawsuit, some advancing pretty quickly about the golf being a monopoly and Live suing the PGA, they decided rather than fight, let's make up and hold hands and become partners. So the PGA Tour is now supposedly equal partners with the Saudis that run Live. And don't kid yourself, the Saudis are the ones that are guaranteeing the funding and are going to be helping making that much more money for everyone involved. So if there's a 51-49 here, it's not going to be the PGA pulling the strings. It's going to be the Saudis. They have a deal in place. It is a structured deal. It's not done yet. It's not a fait accompli. There's some hurdles they still have to get over. But they went so far as to announce the fact that they had the framework for a deal. So it sounds to me like it's going to get done. So the Saudis have accomplished what they wanted. They've got their foothold in professional sports in this country. The National Football League owners, if nothing else, over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years have shown, when in doubt, they kneel at the altar of the almighty dollar. That when push comes to shove, it's a business. We're going to take the deal that makes us as a collective 31-person group, and I'm leaving Josh Harris out of it for right now, and I'm not putting Dan Snyder in. So it's a 31-person collective group. They take the money. What happens when the Saudis come knocking at the door and say, we'd like to purchase a National Football League team? When one becomes available and the sale process begins, NFL going to open their doors for them?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, I've been on top of this story long before the golf aspect of it, because it all goes back, to WWE's deal with Saudi Arabia, which is, they're in year 4 or year 5, and they basically do 2 shows a year. They get $55 million per show. So in the history of pro wrestling, the biggest money shows, they've done like 10 at this point. 1 through 10 are the Saudi Arabia shows. 1 through 10. That's how much money they get for one event.
Put WrestleMania in the rearview mirror.
Destroys it. 1 through 10, literally. Not. There's no. It's a public company. They get $55 million a show, just to put on, because they have that kind of money. You're seeing it with golf now. Now, let's be honest. Most sports fans probably aren't well versed to get into, geopolitical matters and Saudi Arabia and their human rights record, treatment of women, treatment of homosexuals. It's a different culture. It's a theocracy-based culture. It's a Muslim-based culture. They don't accept those things. I think a lot of Americans are very, I know they're very, all right, you should do things the way we do. Well, the rest of the world didn't like that. So from the standpoint of the U.S. government has a list of countries that you can do business with. And Saudi Arabia is on that list. That is their responsibility. If they say it's okay to do business, you can't go to the PGA, you can't go to WWE, you can't go to the NFL and say, oh, but you shouldn't do business because I don't like their human rights record. You can, but you're holding them up to a standard the U.S. government isn't. So my point has always been, and I've written about this in the past, if you're angry about it, be angry about it, but blame the people who are to blame, and that's the U.S. government. They're the ones who make the rules. If they say you can't do business, like you can't do business with Iran, nobody does business. And if they do, they get in trouble. in this country. That people are misguided of where they place their angst, and they place it at the PGA, they place it at UFC when they did business. At WWE, UFC actually pulled out because they got so much crap over it for a while. Now they're back.
Right.
And so many businesses, because there's so much money in the kingdom. If you allow a business to make money, guess what, Jody? They're going to make money. And the NFL is no different. So, yes, they will get involved. And my assumption is that they have far grander thoughts than buying one NFL team, would be my assumption.
Really?
Well, they did it in the PGA. They've done it. It's called the Saudi Public Investment Fund.
Yep.
It's basically a wealth fund chaired by the government they are becoming more progressive, not compared to our society, but compared to their society. And they're trying to turn around their public base. And, for instance, again, women couldn't wrestle. Now they can. Sami Zayn couldn't wrestle in Saudi Arabia because he's Syrian. Now he can. They're becoming more progressive. That's not good enough for some people, but again, that's the goal of this public investment fund. And they've done it. They have big boxing fights over there. Tyson Fury has gotten, and because they offer more money, and businesses or individuals, in the case of PGA golfers, who they made more money. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Understood, but you suggested something bigger than just buying one team. What, try to pull a power play like they did with the PGA and become partners with the National Football League?
Well, look, the fund they have is $600 billion, which is enormous, but it's not enormous enough to, if you cobble together each individual NFL team. The NFL is so big, they would have to increase it. But it wouldn't surprise me if down the road that they try to get involved. They try to become partners like the PGA. They're not partners. They're in charge.
Right.
They're
partners, but don't kid yourself. It's 51-49 and money talks and BS walks.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if down the road. But look, they've done it in every area. Why wouldn't they do it? Now, the only difference is, again, the NFL is a uniquely American sport. Like, nobody else plays it. There's starting to be some European teams, club teams, things like that. But like soccer and boxing and golf, these are worldwide sports where many countries play it, many countries understand it. Football's a little bit different. I'm not sure they have interest in football because they don't understand football. And I'm not talking about their football, the soccer. American football, I'm not sure they have the same kind of interest, but I have no idea. I haven't heard any rumblings. If it's a way to make money, though, it's a way to make money.
Yeah, I think they'd want to get their toe wet by owning a National Football League team first. Wow. How about dipping your toe in for $6 billion?
Well,
we are talking about zeros that I can't even comprehend.
That's a
small. Let's make a small investment by buying an NFL team for $6 or $7 billion.
Yeah.
But those are the figures that we're talking about here. Yeah, I don't know that they're ready to jump in and become partners with the NFL, but wouldn't be surprised. And there'll be people that have problems with it. But I think you did a good job of explaining, John. Make sure you send your ire out to all parties that are involved in this, including the governments that let this happen if you've got a problem with doing business with countries that have the human rights record that a country like Saudi Arabia does. He's Johnny Mac. I'm Jody Mac. We get back to talking football, but this is football. Could Saudi Arabia become shoot? Johnny's ahead of me. He's got them coming in and becoming partners, taking partnership with the NFL.
That's not what I said. I said they have the financial wherewithal if they wanted to do it. But I don't know if they have any interest in American football. They've shown no evidence of that. They've shown evidence in boxing and mixed martial arts and golf and pro wrestling. Baseball is a uniquely American sport. It's a little bit more, it's big in Japan, it's big in Asia as well. It's a little bit bigger from a world standpoint than football, but it's still not on the level of a soccer or basketball. Basketball would be the better indication because basketball is a worldwide sport as well. If they would probably try to make a move to the NBA, I would think before the NFL.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about dollars and cents. When it comes down to it, what's the biggest motivating factor? Dollars and cents. And the NFL generates more dollars than anybody else. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, Mac. Going to be joined by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. He's next on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Yes, it is Birds 365. Somehow, John McMullen just disappeared. It was like I-95 collapsing. John just, poof, went into the netherworld. We're hoping to get him back up here in just a second. But I do have Jeff Kerr joining me. Mr. Kerr, I know you like to get down to Sunday Philly games, and they were victorious yesterday against the Dodgers, got 2 out of 3 in the series, so successful homestand before they head out west. You go yesterday?
I did go yesterday, and I went Friday for the Dick Allen bobblehead and the Kyle Schwarber walk-off, so it was a good weekend.
Very nice. How do you get there? Do you venture down 95 at all? Did you have to change your travel plans to get to the game yesterday?
It actually didn't affect anything on my end. So, because I'm out, toward Royersford. So the way I go, it all depends like what time I leave. Like I could have went 76 like I normally do, but I usually go 476 to 95. 476 was backed up, but it wasn't any different than it was on a normal Sunday. I think I did hit traffic a little earlier, but I normally avoid Northeast Philadelphia as much as I can because I usually don't go that way. Although one of my favorite cheesesteak places is in Levittown. So I don't think I'll be going there quite as often now.
You have to be doing without that going forward for a while because it's going to be nasty. So you go down below and come back up on 95.
Yeah, correct. And then I go over the Platte Bridge and get to the stadium.
Understood. Yeah, it's going to be a stone cold mess here for the next several months. And for those of us who cover the Eagles, now I cover the Phillies and you're a fan and everything else. So, yeah, there's still going to be traveling that needs to be done. But be thankful that the Phillies are in the midst of a down season after they finish up the OTAs. And I don't know if you heard, Jeff Kerr, but Christian Ellis is going to be an all-pro this year because he intercepted a couple of plays in activities this past week. Yes, I kid because I care. John told me last week these practices mean nothing. Now he's talking about the veteran guys. They surely mean something to guys who are going to try and make the team. And I appreciate the fact that Christian Ellis was out there busting it. Do we get too caught up in this 7-on-7 short drills and overestimate what a guy can actually do because they look good in June in an Eagle activity?
I think we do to an extent. Now, look, I'm not going to deny. I think Christian Ellis had an amazing minicamp from the two practices I was at, and John was at there too. But yeah, I think we get a little too overboard with the whole 7-on-7s, the helmets and shells, because you're not going in full pads. You're not really seeing what these guys can do when you get 11-on-11. There's no offensive line, there's no this, there's no that. But it's hard to deny what Christian Ellis was able to do and how he was on first team. And look, he made himself noticed and in a good way. And that's a good thing. Will it determine if Christian Ellis is going to be on this team come September? I think Christian Ellis gave himself a really good head start in terms of where he fits on this depth chart, John.
Hey, thanks for getting me through. The dog was not waiting today, so wasn't had to step out for a little bit, but I appreciate it, guys. I heard you talking Christian Ellis, I want to get to him, Jeff, but real quick, because I don't know how in depth he got with Christian. I wanted to mention Nick Sirianni and Trey Sermon. He keeps bringing up Trey Sermon, and he keeps bringing him up unprompted. Now, Jody and I have been doing the show for a while now. I always kind of chuckle at the Kerry Vincents, the Mac McCains, the Tay Gowans. They were talking them up during the offseason. And then all of a sudden, they get James Bradbury. So Nick's not going to throw anybody under the bus ever, but he keeps bringing them up. Like he's not getting asked the question. They had no cornerbacks at the time. He was asked questions about the cornerbacks, and he talked up the cornerbacks he had. Now he's got a bunch of running backs. He's got guys he likes that were here. Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell. They bring in Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, and he keeps bringing up Trey Sermon. Is it real to you? Does that make it real to you?
I think it's real because of the value of the position. I think a guy like Trey Sermon could come in here and average 4.5 yards per carry behind this offensive line if they need to call upon him. My question is, John, who are they getting rid of at running back? Because I keep saying they have 5 guys that could be on this team, but there's no way they keep all 5, right?
No, I can't imagine. I mean, the one guy, now I'll say the other end, the one guy never talks about seemingly is Rashad Penny.
Yeah, never talks about him. I forget he's on the team.
Yeah. And, I mean, they defaulted to Boston and Kenny during the OTAs. They took the first team reps. And then it was Trey Sermon. And then it was down to Rashad and DeAndre. But DeAndre was more involved when they got to the actual 7-on-7s. You saw the bubble screens, for instance. A lot of Kenny Gainwell, a lot of DeAndre Swift. I don't know. I get that feeling that maybe Rashad Penny is not catching the eye of the coaching staff, or am I just, trying to come up with stuff in the offseason?
Yeah, and he has a non-guaranteed contract, so that's what comes in as well. I do think Rashad Penny makes this football team ultimately. I think you can't ignore the north-south he brings as a running back, and I think he's clearly the best one at doing that. But you're right. Kenny Gainwell was getting a lot of reps. DeAndre Swift was getting a lot of reps. Of course, this is 7-on-7s, and they're using passing. We're not actually seeing them running the ball. I think we're going to see Rashad Penny shine is in 6 weeks from now on July 25th. I think that's where, as long as he's healthy, I think that's always going to be the key with Rashad Penny. He's productive when he's healthy, but can he stay healthy for 5 weeks?
Or is the head coach doing the general manager's bidding? That he's putting the guy out there that they don't think can make the team. But if we talk him up enough, maybe you can get one of those all-important conditional draft picks or trade a spot in the 7th for a trade down in the 6th or whatever. You know how he loves to win trades, even if they're on a minimal level. Is Trey Sermon going to bring anything back on a trade? A guy was just flat out cut, and the Eagles had to work just to keep on their practice squad all last year. Well, did they ever put him up on waivers, or did they keep him on the 53 all year, John?
No, they kept Trey all
year long.
Yeah, he was always like a game day, and that he played the Jaguars game, if I remember.
Yeah, the sermon from the book of Job. That was their joke.
The inactives every single week. So do you think perchance that they're doing this because Howie thinks he can get something if he puts them on the market for a trade commodity come August?
From my standpoint, no. I don't think I don't think you're going to get anything. You never say never with a conditional 7th round pick, but I don't think, Trey Sermon hasn't proven anything. And there's a ton of guys who other teams have their own guys they fall in love with, and it might be their 6th round pick or their 7th round pick or their undrafted free agent that are also cost effective. So that's kind of why I bring up the unprompted stuff, because, when you start talking about trade, like people have mentioned, maybe he's talking up Quez Watkins for trade purposes. That I buy a little bit more because Quez has a little bit of demonstrated performance, and people might chuckle at that, but he's performed at least at a certain level. There's, something there. He's played a lot of snaps, well over 700. So I think that to me is more when you talk about young players, and when you talk about you're either trying to prop them up, and maybe he's just trying to prop them up, trying to get them a little bit of confidence, or it's real. At this position, similar to Christian Ellis, where you guys were talking about when I was off, I don't know if I believe in Christian Ellis, but I believe he's got a chance. I'm starting to believe Trey Sermon has a chance because of one, need, and because there's some talent there. He was a 3rd round pick. It concerns me San Francisco, a good running team, gave up on him so quick, but there's got to be some talent there.
They also found more value in Eli Mitchell too, which I think that was just luck of the draw. I mean, they drafted 2 running backs, and I think they thought both were going to pan out, and one did. But I'll say this too, John, with Christian Ellis, I hope he can become at least a quarter as good as Caden Ellis, because I love his brother. His brother was a great signing by the Falcons.
Yeah, his brother's a good player. He turned into a pretty good player early, and we'll see his other brother Noah's on the Eagles, and he's healthy from his torn Achilles. So who knows? Luther Ellis, the ex-Giants, Lions Pro Bowl defensive tackle. He's got 12 kids, I think, 7 adopted. Caden's in the NFL, Christian's in the NFL. Noah's trying to work his way in the NFL. And real quick, because Jody and I were just talking about it, so I got to give the fans the heads up. It is official. Players report on Tuesday, July 25th.
Yeah, I had a Johnny Mac.
Yeah, well, a little birdie told me that, so I had some inside information there, but it will be Tuesday, July 25th. Lincoln Financial Practice Field, Sunday, August 6th at 7 p.m. That's $10, and season individual tickets for games go on sale June 13th, so tomorrow. So everybody get excited for that.
So we're gonna hear all the Ticketmaster complaints on the Bird app tomorrow, I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably. And tickets,
now, by the way,
benefit the Eagles Autism Foundation. I got to mention that.
The single game tickets. That's all online, right? Did they even open a ticket window down at Lincoln Financial Field anymore?
To my knowledge, no, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
that was good stuff for both television and radio.
You used to go to
get a guy, a
Wanamaker's.
reporter, go down there, get in line with the guys, get him screaming, yell. That's good stuff. Nobody does that anymore.
For young,
get on your app.
For young 11, 12-year-old Jeff Kerr, that was awesome waiting in line for the Eagles-Bucks 2000 wild card game and getting those tickets during your week off from school.
For some reason, you used to be able to buy tickets at Wanamaker's, if everybody remembers Wanamaker's. I have no idea why.
I didn't know they sold tickets there.
Oh, yeah. They had a ticket outlet at Wanamaker's in Philadelphia. But
fun story about Wanamaker's and Hess's and all those department stores. My family actually keeps those boxes and wraps Christmas gifts up in them. Yeah.
Nice. You get a Wanamaker's box.
Yeah, I get a Wanamaker's box. I feel like I'm in the 80s.
You know what was cool back then is you would keep your tickets. You'd have the memento. Now you just put out your phone. Yeah, you just bring out your phone. It's gone. You just delete it from your wallet, whatever.
I still have a lot of my old Eagles playoff tickets. I got the first game at Citizens Bank Park, the last game at the Vet. I still have those ticket stubs.
It's
I still have the ticket stub from the game when the ball went through Buckner's legs.
That's crazy.
I will have that for the rest of my life.
Laminate that thing.
Now, oops, it's gone on your phone. You were there, one of the greatest games of all time. You went, no, it's not there. It's on your phone. It was an app. You're gone. See you later. Bye. That's some things. Advancement in technology is actually made less palatable in life, but that's just old man Jody Mack barking, get off my lawn, you young kids. All right, Jeff Kerr, with now the fact that we know the Eagles are going to be down for a month, nowhere to be seen for a month. Guys like you have to try and ferret out stories, you and Johnny Mack both, about what the hell the Eagles are doing while they're away from Philadelphia for a month. I brought this back up last week, and I know I sound like the Grinch. First, I'm the old man. Now I'm the Grinch. They're not going to have someone overwatching Jalen Carter, but how much do you think the Eagles talk to his teammates, his former Georgia teammates and the like, to just stay in touch with Jalen Carter? Because the Eagles got one of the most talented players, maybe the most talented player in the draft at the number 9 slot for a reason. He had off-field issues. This is the time when they're away from the structure that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles drafted him because they believe in their structure. But this is the one downtime of the year where the structure might not be good enough to keep a kid from getting into trouble. How much oversight do you think the Eagles will try and keep in any way, shape, or form on Jalen Carter?
I think this is where a guy like Jordan Davis comes in. And Jordan Davis said this, 2 Thursdays ago, John? He was telling us about, hey, look, these guys need to ride somewhere. If they need to go to a Wawa, if they need to just get out of, I'm going to be there. I think it's going to be the Jordan Davises, the Kobe Deans, the Kaylee Ringos, his teammates at Georgia, I think are going to be the ones to get him through these 6 weeks.
Yeah, Nolan Smith too. Nolan's that, he's got a little Jalen Hurts in him. He's so mature as a young person. So, I think you're right. Jordan Davis seems to be taking on that mantle as well. And I'm sure the Eagles will say, hey, make sure you check in on him a little bit more. But there's only so much they can do. Everybody goes through the same thing in this league. And the Eagles have been pretty good at, it was kind of chuckled to cheerleaders episode. There have been a few episodes off the field, but that's going to happen. 90 guys. It happens to every NFL team. The Eagles have been pretty good avoiding those things. I think that's about the stuff you do before, not after. I mean, you got to do all your due diligence. There are certain guys you want to stay away from them.
Right.
I think they do a pretty good job of that. And that's one of the reasons why I support the Jalen Carter move and the draft pick. The talent is unquestioned. But if they feel it's worth it, that adds some weight to me because they've been good at this stuff in the past. It's just like demonstrated performance again. All right. This team's been good at this stuff. So do they deserve the benefit of the doubt, or am I giving them too much, Jeff?
No, I think they deserve the benefit of the doubt. I mean, what was the last major Eagles all-season storyline that was negative between June and July? Was it Nigel Bradham? Is that the last one?
I don't know the timing. That was a great Jim Sword quote, by the way. But
yeah, the Cabana thing.
If you keep doing stupid stuff, people are going to start calling you stupid. But Darryl Worley, people forget about him.
He got cut too.
Yeah, he got cut right away. Not a lot. Nelson got in trouble. But Josh Huff, I'm not sure the timing of the Josh
Huff was October, wasn't it?
Yeah,
wasn't it like during the bye week? It was right after he had that big game where he won Special Teams Player of the Week.
Yeah. So the timing's all there. Yeah, they haven't had a lot of problems recently.
Yeah. We joke in the national media, especially at CBS, like, oh, this is the time where you start hearing about Cowboys stuff, and not in a good light.
Yeah, this is where Mike Florio made his bones with his arrest ticker that he conveniently forgets about.
Love the arrest ticker. So here's my question for both you guys, since we're talking about Carter and them getting a number 9, and the Eagles not having many issues over the last 5 years, 10 years with drafted players and getting them in trouble. Is it because they have this good inner structure that they bring people in and make them part of their culture and do the right thing and keep an eye on them and have their teammates work with them and maybe turn a guy's overall outlook on life around? Or do they just have the ability to say, yeah, we're not taking a guy because we're not sure if we can control. We know what the talent level is, but it's too big a risk. Do we know which one it is with Jalen Carter? Because we know some people graded him the most talented player in the draft, either he or Anderson. You're not going to knock the teams who took quarterbacks in the first 4 picks in the draft for passing on him, but Seattle takes a DB. Arizona takes an offensive lineman. The Raiders take Tyree Wilson, who's an edge as compared to a tackle, but another defensive lineman. And the Falcons take Bijan Robinson. We'll see how that works out. A lot of people in Philadelphia wanted that to be the Eagles' pick. Which one is it here? Is it the Eagles that good at just bringing a guy along and changing his outlook on life, or that they got a little lucky here because other teams decided they weren't going to take a chance on a player?
I think the Eagles were very fortunate that they were able to get themselves in the position to get Jalen Carter, just because, as you said, Joey, with the teams with the quarterbacks, okay, that is what it is. Everybody needs a quarterback. But Seattle could have taken him. I didn't think he was going to get past Detroit at 6. And then the Cardinals traded up, and I'm like, well, maybe they could take him, but they always like Paris Johnson, which I heard the Falcons really wanted Paris Johnson. And then he was taken. So Tyree Wilson's on the board. They pivot and say, you know what, we'll just take who we feel is the best player available. We trust our offensive line, who's one of the best run blocking offensive lines in football. I know I said one. I didn't say they were the best, but they decided to get him. And then all of a sudden, Jalen Carter's still on the board. But I know some of these teams wouldn't touch him with the 10.5-foot pole. And I thought the team that would have been the Seattle Seahawks. But I think they want someone to help Tariq Woolen out and Quandre Diggs and guys like that. So they got Devin Witherspoon, which I can't blame him. I thought he was the best cornerback in the draft personally, but I don't have much of an issue with teams picking the guys they pick, but you just keep letting good players fall to good organizations, and you wonder why good organizations stay good.
Yeah, and Jody went down the whole list except the one team that passed on him twice, essentially. And Ryan Poles went public and said, "I can't take him." Essentially, admitted it, and he said, He also said he thinks Philadelphia is a great spot for him because, and that's one of the underrated parts of Howie Roseman's success. And I've talked about it a bunch on this show. I'll bring it up again here because we brought it up. He can do these things. Other guys, Ryan Poles, cannot. He can't do it. And I don't blame him. But the bottom line is the Chicago Bears, and Jody knows I've been tough on them, and this is part of the reason why. They have the first pick in the draft, right? They can't take the kid at number 1. They trade down. They're probably hoping, well, we don't have to worry about that anymore. Oh, no, they had to worry about it again. Now they got something extra. Give them a round of applause for that.
They got 2 something extras.
But the bottom line is they started at number 1 overall, and they got Darnell Wright. And maybe he turns into a 10-time Pro Bowler.
I think he is going to be a good player, but I don't think he's going to be Jalen Carter.
And they could have had Jalen Carter or Will Anderson or whatever. They're not going to take a quarterback.
So, John, I have to right now. I'm actually writing the best offseason move for each team, whether it was coach hire or draft pick or whatever. And I put the Bears. What they did, how much they traded, how much they got back for the number 1 pick. But I said, they still could have drafted the guy they probably would have drafted number 1 if there wasn't any baggage. And that was Jalen Carter. And I just happened to mention it in a footnote, they still made an awesome trade and they still could have gotten the guy they wanted.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But they did add a talented wide receiver, which they desperately needed, and got future draft assets. I think Chicago did fine, and I was a big fan of Wright. I know you're a combine guy. He was the best offensive lineman in the combine. He was better than Paris Johnson, who I know had a better regular season, and that's why he went first. But I think Wright's going to be a stud in the NFL.
I think the tackles in this class were very good, especially the ones in the first round. I think most of the guys that got tackles, or most of the teams, I think they're going to be more than happy with what they got.
I think Jeff hit the nail on the head, man. These bad teams keep giving good teams good players, and it doesn't make freaking sense. Like if I'm an NFC team, if I'm San Francisco, if I'm Dallas, if I'm Detroit, even if you want to throw Minnesota, New Orleans,
but isn't Detroit only 1 year removed from being a bad team? Not even 1 year, half a year removed from being a bad team.
Well, they're typically a bad team. They've been a bad team for a long time. They're finally turning it around. All I'm trying to say is I don't have any hair, but if I had hair, I'd pull it out. Like how are you giving the Philadelphia Eagles freaking Jalen Carter? I don't know, but they did.
I say this in baseball, too, with the Atlanta Braves. Why does everybody let the Atlanta Braves get good players? Why do they let them get Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, and everybody? Why does everybody let Alex Anthopoulos just run the National League?
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's amazing to me that the Philadelphia Eagles ended up with Jalen Carter. This is going to be my prediction, and I've been very high, Jody knows, on Jalen Carter. This is going to be one of those you look back in 10 years and go, what the hell was everybody thinking? Why are they letting this team get this player? It's astonishing to me.
Everybody's so excited about Nolan Smith, and I said, I'm telling you guys are going to love watching Jalen Carter in camp. You really are.
Yeah, I think when people start to see him, they're going to get it. And to Ryan's credit, I've been hard on Ryan because I think he's in this new age, and I'll say the same thing about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the same division. They're very analytics driven, and I hope it works for them. But they're followers. They're not leaders, and to a certain extent, and we lost Jody. I get it. They're not allowed to do it. And that's where I think Jeffrey Lurie factors into this in a very big way. Look, I think if Brian Poles was allowed, I don't think he's a dummy. I think he would have taken the kid. He couldn't take the kid because he's going to get fired if he gets a ticket in Chicago. And if it doesn't work out, he can't afford even that small percentage chance that it blows up. Because again, we're not talking about John Dillinger. We're talking about a kid who made some mistakes, and one was very tragic, but we're not talking about somebody who's robbing people or doing horrendous things. We're talking about an immature, extremely talented kid. I don't know. And I give him credit for admitting it. He went on Chicago 670 the score and said, I can't take him. I think Philadelphia's a great place for him. Why can't he take him?
Right.
That's not his fault.
I'll explain to you, John. This would just be my theory. No other team, a whole bunch of other teams, Bears passed on them, but we just went through Seattle and the Raiders and other teams that took them. How many of those teams have Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox? Veteran guys, been there before, mentors who can be. None. How many of those teams have two of his college teammates that they drafted the year before, one of which who played right next to him on the defensive line, and the other one who played right behind him as a linebacker? None. So the Eagles, it wasn't as much the Eagles are this structured organization and Howie Roseman is so much smarter than everybody else. It was kind of like circumstances fell their way. They were in a unique position to be able to take a chance on a guy. If the Eagles hadn't taken him, do you think he goes to the next pick at number, Gary? Well, if they hadn't moved up to 9.
10. It wouldn't have been 10. That would have been great if they didn't take him.
Yeah, they pass on him
10.
than they trade down again and pass on him.
Yeah.
I'm still curious.
No, but by the way, real quick, I think now I'll take the quarterback teams out of it because they're looking for quarterbacks. But it doesn't matter if it's Houston, if it's Seattle, if it's Arizona, Las Vegas, Atlanta. They all made mistakes because they all took lesser players. They had a chance to get the best player in the draft, and they didn't take him.
I was told going into that draft he wasn't getting past Detroit at 6. If you had to trade up to get him, you had to trade up to 6. And then Detroit trades down, and they draft the running back at 12. And
right. So your info must not have been accurate, Jeff.
Well, things change on draft night. Brad Holmes said he had an offer he couldn't refuse. And he never was even asked about Jalen Carter. It's crazy how no one asked him about it. And they needed a defensive tackle. I would love to pair him with Aiden Hutchinson. But again, structure probably not in place, and which I don't get because I think Dan Campbell's run a pretty good ship there. And I think they got leaders in that Detroit locker room now.
And I'm telling now, just my opinion. I'm telling you, I don't think it was because of Nick Sirianni. I think it was because of the players they have in this team, that they thought that they could watch over, help guide, keep his nose clean on the defensive side of the ball. But we'll find out over time, and hopefully he doesn't give us anything to talk about for the next 6 weeks because of issues off the field. We'll just continue to talk about I-95 instead. And we'll continue to bring Jeff Kerr on with us every once in a while. Jeff, thanks for jumping in. Good luck getting down to all those Phillies games on Sundays through the traffic with 95 falling apart. At least the Eagles are staying together. Thanks for hopping on today, bud.
Yeah, no problem, guys. By the way, I think the biggest story for me this week, because I'm a baseball nut, is hearing how much different the pitch clock is in Reading and Lehigh Valley and how they were trained at the pitch clock at those levels compared to Major League Baseball, who actually hires their own people, and they still can't get it right in Philadelphia.
Carr, you got to call somebody at CBSSports.com and start writing a baseball column. If that's your biggest story, well, it is actually ongoing and football's not. So, Jeff, good stuff. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, top quarterback head coach duos are coming out in a month. Guarantee you Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are on.
Oh, they better be number one, or you're going to get a lot of you-know-what from
how can I – come on, everybody knows who number one is. I think it's who's fighting for 2 at this point.
There you go.
You're probably right.
Jeff Kirk here with us on Birds 365. All right, come back, put a bow in the show. Running a little late here on Birds 365.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac wrapping up a Monday edition of Birds 365. We thank both Jeff Kerr and Tommy Lawler for hopping in with us today. We'll continue to pound out these shows until what day is the official opening of camp, John, as you found out today?
Players report July 25th. July 25th.
That's a long way down the road. Today's June 12th.
We
got to wait till July 25th.
We got 18 days plus 25. That's 43 days.
Oh,
we can
man,
do it.
that's a long time before we get the Eagles back. I'm almost rooting for Jalen Carter to get in trouble because it'll give us something to talk about.
Yeah. How about I'll be like, he better keep his nose clean because I'll be looking bad if he doesn't. But I'll take it. Worth the risk. Worth the risk.
Exactly. They knew it was an educated risk, but they got a very talented player who hopefully is going to be very good for the Birds for many years. All right, John, you're not going anywhere near 95, are you? Today? You're going to stay home and.
Oh, heck no. I'm certainly not going anywhere near 95 unless I have to. And,
McMullen will be punching out articles for JAKIB Media and SI and everywhere else. So he gets the ability to just sit in front of that computer and get to work, John McMullen. I got to be on WIP after the Eagles night, not until 3 a.m. So I might be a little groggy going through tomorrow's show. But somehow you'll prop me up, right?
Yeah, we'll do my best. Hopefully the dog will sleep through the show. Thanks for carrying me through the extended break.
Well, I disappeared too. You saw that, right? My computer just restarted out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I had a green screen. I was gone for about 20 seconds, but it started right back up. We will start right back up with another episode of Birds 365. That would be tomorrow. Before you get out of Dodge, do us all a favor. Hit that like button as you get out the door. And if you like us enough, be back here tomorrow for another episode of Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365. the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.